Hey everyone, this is Subha. Let's begin our video. In this PMP scenario, we are going to discuss the implications of government regulations update on any project. Let me read out the scenario and the option choices, and then we are going to discuss. The scenario states that the project manager is leading a wastewater treatment project for a factory. During project execution, the government unexpectedly releases new environmental protection standards that are stricter than the previous standard. To ensure the compliance with these updated regulations, what should the project manager's initial course of action should be? Option A, meet with the project team to assess the implication of the new government regulations on the project requirements. Option B, review the project's register to determine if the change was previously documented as a potential risk to the project. Option C, document a formal change request detailing the adjustments and submit it to the change control board for evaluation. And option D, initiate discussions with the government agency to negotiate a revised timeline for adopting the new environmental standards. I think the answer to this question is very easy. And this is a scenario where government regulations, which is government related standards, government mandated compliances is beyond anybody's control. Even the organizational authority is lesser than the standardization bodies and government or ministries. And that's the reason why the regulations, standards, legality related aspects are covered under environmental factors, EES. So any project which is impacted or which is affected because of government related compliances, they should be ready for this. Maybe not with the actual impact or with the actual severity level, but at least as a risk, they should be knowing this. So this is a scenario where they are clearly mentioning that this change with this impact or with this severity level was unexpected to the project team, right? And this is coming to them as a surprise, right? So maybe they were aware of this situation that anything can change anytime when it comes to government mandates, but the severity level was at least not known. So now what should they be doing? And again, as an initial course of action, the very next thing after this situation should be what? Let's check step by step. Option A, meet with the project team to assess the implication of the new government regulations on the project requirement, which in other words is impact analysis. So now you know the scope of the work, right? Now you know the implications as well. Now you know that how this scope of work would impact the agreed upon scope of work in the project scope baseline. And understanding all of that in an integrated manner and of course assessing the impact on scope as well as schedule, budget, resources, quality, everything is needed before you get to any action step, before you get to any accommodations, adjustments, or change of plan. This is needed, impact analysis, right? Even if you need to go to your customer or you need to go to that regulatory body to buy some time, you need the impact analysis, because without impact analysis, how would you get to know that this much additional time is needed or this much additional budget or resources is needed? You can't really quote anything without estimation, and for estimation you need an analysis, a detailed analysis, a deep dive analysis on the situation. So option A is a very good choice. We are going to keep option A. Let's check option B, C, and D first, and then we will see that which course of action is going to be the best one as an initial thing to do. Option B, review the project's risk register to determine if this change was previously documented as a potential risk to the project. So when I posted this question on our regular Friday poll, option A and B were the two topmost contestants. So option A got 57% and option B got 28%. And the remaining 15% was between C and D. Option B is not a bad choice, to be honest, because whenever a situation occurs, especially a risky situation, of course, this is also a risk. This is not an issue as of now. This could be an issue if it is not going to be dealt properly. Then it could become an issue and it could impact project objectives negatively. But as of now, this is a risk. This may happen. This may impact project. So this is going to be a good thing that you go to the risk register and you check that if this risk is already identified and if there was an already agreed upon response with the reserve analysis and contingency allocation available. Because if this is going to be the case, then this is the best thing to do initially, that if the response plan is already available and contingencies are already agreed upon by the project manager and the project team, then you just pick that and you start implementing that. Why? Because the impact analysis and integration of that action step in the baselines would already be there. This is exactly how we integrate the risk response plan in the project plans and the project artifacts. So this is a good choice, but only if this risk was identified with the right severity level and with the right action step. If not, this is not the right initial course of action. So I'm now going to take you back to this scenario and this second line where unexpectedly is mentioned, right? This actually suggests that the risk was not expected, maybe not anticipated at all. And even if anticipated, it was not assessed with this severity level that the government, maybe like I said, usually the government mandates and the government related regulations and the risk related to that is always known. And usually in the projects where this could be a category, a risk category, the risk is known with an active or passive acceptance depending on the availability of the risk data. In this case, clearly with the context of the question, we know that the extent to which this risk could hit the project was not known, or at least it has come to the team as a surprise. So even if this risk was identified in the risk register, its severity, its impact on scope, schedule, budget, and other constraints, and accordingly the response plan is not going to be effective anymore. And it requires a reassessment. A risk reassessment exercise is needed if the risk was identified. And if it was not identified at all, because it's coming unexpectedly, then this is also a possibility that nobody has really identified that as a risk in the risk register. So B, at least in this context, is not the right answer. Right? Had the question mentioned that this risk was previously identified in the by the team in the risk register, and the rest of the question scenario or rest of the scenario would have been the same, then I would say that B is going to be the best thing to do than A, right? In this context, this unexpectedly and this stricter than the previous standard statements are clearly suggesting that B is not the right thing to do, because B is not going to cover you in the right way as an initial course of action, right? So B is going to be excluded. Option C, draft a formal change request and detailing the adjustment and submit it to the change control board for evaluation. Now, why this option is not going to be the best thing to do initially? Because, I mean, drafting the change request is okay, but change request is going to say what? Change request is going to say that this not so expected government, standards related to environmental production are there, and we need to adjust everything in the project accordingly, right? But is that enough? No, this is not enough, because the change request would need the proper impact analysis. and like the proper deep dive on how this change is going to impact the other areas of the project, the agreed upon baselines, the artifacts, the scope, schedule, budget, resources, everything is expected to update because of this, right? So what are you going to really submit to CCB for their evaluation and approval? Just the change request statement? No, this is not how it works. This is going to be an immature thing, and this is a partial answer, right? This is not the full answer. This is not how this type of changes are presented to senior committees like CCB or project steering committee. So C is also excluded. Right? So now we are going to compare A and D. D says initiate discussions with government agency to negotiate a revised timeline for adopting the new environmental standard. I have already covered this while explaining A, that if you want to buy time, if you want to add more resources, or if you want to fight for additional budgets in front of a sponsor or steering committees or customer or whoever is the authority, you need impact analysis. You need your due diligence done as a project manager, as a project team, right? Which is A. Only based on that, you would know that even if you need to buy time, what's the basis for that? How you are going to connect the important milestones, the upcoming phases, the upcoming releases to this new change. So as the initial course of action, D is not the right thing to do. Maybe you need to go with D, right? Maybe you need to go with C as well, but as a later step, after A is done. So A is the right thing to do in this case. I hope you like this explanation. If you have any confusions or unclarities, feel free to reach out to me on this WhatsApp number or in the comment area, and I will make sure to revert back to you with clarifications. I will be back very soon with a new PMP scenario. Till then, take care. Goodbye.